On a cold night in February, 5 young men inexplicably left the safety of their car and struck out into the woods in the dead of night. It would be months before their bodies were found. Known as America's own Dyatlov Pass incident, we're left wondering what happened to the boys from Yuba City.
There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey everybody, it's episode 108.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one today. This is going to be kind of like Dyatlov Pass, but this one's the American Dyatlov case.
This is something that, this has been requested at least 3 times.
Right.
Now, this was something I had never heard of, and the more I researched this case, there's not a huge amount of information out there about it, weirdly. But every single thing I saw, like the couple other YouTube shows that I saw about it, there were zillions of comments like underneath saying the exact same thing. It's like, oh my God, I grew up there and I can't believe I never heard of this. And to me, it seems like, because we did a show about the actual Dyatlov Pass incident from 1959 that happened in Russia.
Yeah, real popular show.
Which is very famous. Shit. But to me, this one is way weirder. And it's like, and it seems like it's not as well known.
No.
Even in the United States, even though it happened here, it happened in California.
How many hits are we up to on that Dyatlov case? It's got to be like 20, 30,000 hits. I think some crap like that. That was a super popular show.
That's what it's like. He doesn't understand. Once I do the shows, because I usually have to watch them like 3 or 4 times while I'm editing them and stuff like that. So it's like I don't want to watch them anymore. Yeah. I'm just like whatever. I'm sick of looking at that shit.
I go back and keep an eye.
He'll watch them, but I don't.
I go back and keep an eye on the numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're still getting hits, and if how popular they are, how many thumbs up. I'll go back and look.
I'm kind of like.
But I haven't gone that far back in a long time.
Yeah, because that was a while back.
That was a long time ago.
Dyatlov Pass show.
Yeah.
It was one of our most popular ones, I think. I don't know where it ranked, but it was very
kind of controversial. I mean, it got a lot of thumbs up, but there was, I think, a lot of thumbs down, too. But it was like 60, 80 thumbs up and 30 thumbs down, because, we didn't really buy into, everybody else's theories about it,
Well, here's the thing. The actual Dyatlov Pass incident, to me, it's mysterious. It had some mysterious details, but to me, really the only mystery was what made them run out of the tent.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that could have been that aren't that bizarre.
Right.
This one, like pretty much every single detail about it is weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
And like you can think of ways that it could have happened, but then like just like why did they end up? How did this? What the fuck is going on? It's that kind of thing. So it's like that's why I'm just mystified as to why I had never heard of this. Like I said, and evidently a lot of other people haven't either, even though it is way, way weirder than the actual Dyatlov Pass incident.
Yeah, and the Dyatlov case didn't really stun me too much because I'm ex-military and I served in Korea, right along that border near North Korea. And, I was airborne infantry, and, man, we used to do field exercises and missions in weather. It could get down 40, 50 degrees below zero at night, with that cold Siberian air blowing across you. And I understand, what the psychological effects and the physical effects of extreme cold are, what they're like, But this was a little bit different. There's a couple of military guys fell victim in this case, They're not real hardcore military guys. They weren't in for very long. We're going to talk about that in a bit. I don't know, maybe that's why they lived as long as they did. I think they survived a couple of months out there, at least some of them.
Yeah, it's like I said, pretty much every detail about this case is weird.
It's a weird case.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, I'm not saying I don't think it's supernatural, nothing like that, but it's just like all the details left over, you're like, why did that happen? Why, why did it go down the way it went down?
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of like come up with a solution that doesn't sound bizarre.
Cases like this, really what we're talking about is we want to know, what exactly happened. What were the order of deaths? Who died first? What were they thinking? We're going to get into that.
Yeah, because that's really what I want to know. Like I said, the Dyatlov Pass incident, you know why they were there. They were camping. They weren't lost or anything
Yeah.
like that. It was just something bad happened, like an avalanche or whatever. And it's like, it just looked weird after.
Right.
But this one's just weird.
We got shout outs and all that kind of stuff to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We're going to do that. And then I'm going to do like a really short news story. And then we'll get into it.
All right.
So,
Let's get
okay.
it rolling.
My Faceless Villain book.
Yeah.
I'm keeping you guys apprised of the progress on this, okay? So the last couple days I've been working on the index, and I'm working really hard because I took this to heart when I wrote The Unseen Hand. The only thing, like, it got sterling reviews and everything like that. The only thing that I got dinged on was, oh man, I wish that it had an index so it could be used, because apparently some people are using it for textbook type purposes, which is
research.
awesome. And, for research purposes. So I was like, okay, so when I wrote Faceless Villain Volume 1, I said, okay, well, I'm going to put a really good index in here. So I put an index in there. So, and it was a pain in the ass to do. They were a pain in the ass to do, but it wasn't that bad. Now this book, Volume 2, is like twice as long.
Yeah.
And it also has like a lot of unsolved serial murder cases, like the Texas Killing Fields, the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders, the Freeway Phantom from DC and stuff, that have all these kind of interconnected suspects and interconnected victims. And so I've been working on doing this index, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like writing a whole other book, because it's like I have to keep cross-referencing back. It's like, okay, well, this person is a suspect in these serial murders and this one, and Ted Bundy suspected this one and that one and the other one.
Yeah,
so
this
it's
thing's
like,
beyond 800 pages now, isn't it?
Well, when the index is done, it will probably be almost 800 pages.
Okay.
So, because the index is getting kind of long. Because if someone wanted to use it for research, I want it to be a really good index that you could like look in if you were just looking for one particular case, and you could see all of the related type of stuff. So, but that's, everything else is done. It's been read through. It's all formatted. So that's the only thing I'm working on, is just the index, which is like just the last 20 pages.
Index will not affect the audiobook, though. That's not going to be in the audiobook. Now, I was just thinking, because we have this new, this new microphone is kick-ass.
I really do love this Yeti microphone. And they're not paying us for that plug. I just really like it.
So, we're going to redo the audiobooks.
Yeah.
With our new audio technology. That includes Unseen Hand. We just get to it when we get to it. Do you think maybe we ought to re-release a second edition Unseen Hand with an index in it?
I've thought about doing that. I'll probably will. Yeah. I mean, I got to
affect the audiobook. We got to
No.
redo the audiobook anyway to get better
Yeah.
sound quality, but it will affect the print and the ebook.
Yeah.
And maybe we should do it. If they're using it as that, we can say it's second
Well, now
edition.
see, the index, I'm only putting the index in the print version, because in the ebook version, I feel like it's not really as necessary, because
they're not really doing it.
Well, no, because
right?
the ebook, you can put in your table of contents, you can link to right where that case is. So that's usually what I do in the ebook.
Okay.
So I don't ever bother putting an index in the thing. But in the print book, I definitely wanted to put one.
We'll put that on the list then. When we get to it, we get to it.
Yeah, so I'm going to get around to it. But
Okay.
for real, the index will be done in a day or two.
Right.
And at which point I'm going to upload the print book, I will upload the ebook, and then I'm going to start recording the audiobook, and that'll probably be another few weeks.
What they're doing is, with Unseen Hand, we're going to have probably like parapsychologists / you know what I mean, ghost hunters or paranormal guy. They're using that as a source book.
Yeah,
as a reference book.
Yeah, and I thought if people were going to use it as a reference, then probably I should put it.
We should put another edition with to help it as a reference book. That's what we'll do.
So, like I said, even though they're a pain in the ass to do, I don't think the Unseen Hand one will be that difficult to do, because there's not much interrelation between the two cases. The problem I'm having with this, with Faceless Villain Volume 2, is the interrelated nature of so many of the crimes. Like, they have a lot of suspects in common. Some of them have, you know what I mean?
This is going to be a good book. People are going to like this one.
I like it. I mean, I wrote it, but I love this shit, so it's like I found it really interesting. So hopefully that comes through.
Volume 3 will be the same size or larger, do you think?
It'll probably be at least the same size.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to try and keep it about the same, because if it gets like too long, I'm actually not sure what the limit on the page count is.
Okay.
Like at a certain size, you might have to like go up a size, and I don't really want to do that because I want them all to be the same. So so I'm gonna have to see how that goes. This seems like a good size, though.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, after a while, I had to leave some cases out, because I was just like, I can't put any more in here. I have to stop looking.
I can't believe it, because we started out with Mammoth Mountain Poltergeist. That was like, what, a couple hundred pages?
Yeah, it was like 125 pages, 140 pages, something like that.
Small book, and then all of a sudden you're pushing 1,000-page books now.
I know. This is why I'm always tired.
I know. It's okay. Once the books are done, they stand the test of time. They're
That's
there forever.
true.
And they're out there.
I only have to do them once.
And they're out there making money for the rest of your life because they will sell.
Yeah.
They'll sell.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. So it'll be pretty soon. Also, let's see. If you didn't see our last movie review, it was the 1993 anthology film Necronomicon, loosely based on some H.P. Lovecraft stories. Had Jeffrey Combs in it.
Yeah.
Looking like Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Even though they were trying to make him look like H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Which they kind of did, but also
kinda.
he sort of looked like Bruce Campbell too, which was very...
It's hard to make anybody look like H.P. Lovecraft, though.
He was
weird looking dude.
He wasn't ugly, but he was very odd looking.
He looked like
he had odd facial proportions.
He looked like somebody who was kind of a slimer. You know what I'm talking about? Somebody who's always talking and he got slime in his mouth. You ever seen what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I just don't know why that...
Little thin-lipped slimer. I don't know.
I don't know why that particular thing.
There's guys like that in the Army. There was, we used to call them slimers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Slimer like the ghost from Ghost.
No, no.
Okay.
They're constantly drooling when they're talking.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's got to be some kind of medical condition, I would think. Like they can't close
I think
their
it
mouth
is,
all the way
right.
or something
I don't know.
like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, and also, as always, if you would like to financially support the show, we would appreciate it very much. And you can go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or you can go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account. Our newest patron is named Ed. Hey there, man.
Thanks, Ed.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Also, if you like our movie retrospectives, but you don't have 20, 40, 50 minutes to spend, and
I know what you're getting to.
you're annoyed by my stupid ass, and you want to see action movies,
Yeah.
what you need to do...
Testosterone-based action movies. Testosterone-based action movies. You can friend me on Facebook, and I'll add you to my group, Thomm's Shitty Movies. SHIDDY,
Shitty
movies.
with 2 Ds.
Yep.
Amused the shit out of me.
Yeah, and I just put them out. I put the video
out of me.
I'll just get the get the Blu-ray, and I'll take my tablet, and I shoot the movie, and I'll talk about the movie.
Yeah.
So each review is maybe only 3 or 4 minutes long.
Yeah, they're very short and concise.
Yeah.
Good for male attention spans.
Exactly. I'm not gonna waste your time. But
he's gonna tell you is good. Stuff blows up.
Right.
The end.
you can find us through the 13 o'clock podcast on Facebook, and Jenny can refer you to Thomm's shitty movies.
Yeah, they're
not shitty. They're shitty. Which is, sometimes they're good too. I like a shitty movie. I'll talk about,
well, you did some decidedly non-shitty movies.
I talked to
Beverly Hills
Cop.
That's a good
I'll
movie.
talk about Van Damme movies. I got some Van Damme movies coming. Steven Seagal.
Those are
His
also
pathological lion ass, in his movies.
I hate that small
Schwarzenegger, I like action movies, but I like them for what they are.
Yeah.
And I don't try to make them what they're not.
I like some, but they get old pretty quick.
I like them.
I can watch like a zillion shitty ass horror movies. I can watch 1 or 2 shitty ass if you're gonna make a shitty action movie, make it like ridiculously shitty.
Well, that's the ones I like.
And then I mean like over the top, ridiculous.
I like them,
not the movie over the top.
I like them kind of cartoonish.
Yeah.
Really, the stuff that Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger were doing in the 80s and the 90s, I'm really into that. I like that. Some of the stuff that Seagal did in the 90s, like Under Siege 1 and 2. I'm going to talk about those tonight, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, he literally, you guys, we're filming this on Saturday. I don't even know what fucking day it is.
It's Saturday.
It's Saturday afternoon. Well, late afternoon. It's like evening.
You're right.
And he literally started Thomm's Shitty Movies Facebook group last night.
A friend of mine asked me to do it.
Some people asked him.
Yeah.
Like some of our listeners were like, "Hey, why don't you do like some little short acts?" Because
that wasn't a listener. That was somebody I knew from the club.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they're going to come over tomorrow.
That's
yeah,
right,
Ash,
yeah.
they're coming over. Him and
They're
his
coming
girlfriend are coming over tomorrow to watch movies because he likes the movies.
They're going to watch Blade Runner.
They like the movies that I recommended. He recommended. He's like, Tom, why don't you open up another channel and do your own movie reviews?
Yeah.
And I was thinking of all the production time, you know what I mean, like we do here. And I said, man, I can't do that. So I said, I'm just going to do it here on Facebook using my...
Yeah, because if you came in and you said, hey, I want to start my whole other channel and I have to edit
yeah,
it,
she'd have to do it all.
I would have punched you right in the taint. I'm
really,
like, oh, no, you don't.
And really, there are other guys out there that are just awesome at that kind of stuff. Guys like Razor Fist, you know what I mean? They'll. I mean, he just does nothing but action movies, and he's over the top the way he does it. You know, he's one of the best at it.
I'm a big fan of Shitcase Cinema. Mm-hmm. That British dude,
Johnny
Shitcase.
Yeah,
he does. He
good.
finds like the shittiest,
Very
crappiest, most horrible action movies.
Yeah,
and he just has this
Make
really
fun.
funny.
Yeah,
like fucking.
Yeah, mine aren't like that. They're not very long.
Yeah,
and I get right
his
to the
are
point.
Long, but
yeah, his are long, but mine just I get right to the point and I tell you why it's good or or why it's why maybe it's bad.
Yeah,
because I'll probably talk about some bad ones too. I already have. I talked about.
I didn't see all the ones you did last night. He did a shit ton of them last night.
I talked about Universal Soldier Regeneration, how that movie wasn't worth a shit. But the
didn't
very
even know
first
that
Universal
was a movie.
Soldier, I liked it.
I didn't even know.
Zombie Commandos. I saw it when I was in the Army with some buddy of mine from the unit. We're like, oh man, this is all right. Cool them down. They're putting them in ice. You have to see the movie, know what I'm talking about. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
It's not something girls watch.
I don't know. I watch that kind of stuff. See, no, I don't know if that's entirely fair because I like a lot of...
Her ex-husband used to make her watch that shit.
Yeah, I kind of got sick of it.
Yeah.
He was a big Chuck Norris fan. Yeah. And I told him, he's like, he'll come up with like, and then we have this other friend, Matt. Hi, Matt. Yeah. Who is like always talking about, because he's a big Chuck Norris fan too.
Matt's like my little brother.
Yeah, and he's always trying to pull out like obscure like Chuck Norris movies out of his ass and be like, you haven't seen this one, Jenny? I'm like, yes, I did. Yeah. I saw every fucking one of them.
Matt's from New York, and he spends about half the time down here in Florida. His family has a house here. His family's got houses everywhere. Anyway, he's got his own popcorn machine in his house where he watches movies. It's like one out of the damn theater.
That's one of my aspirations.
He's got his own. He wants his own pretzel machine.
Oh, yeah, also a good idea.
And then I was like, Matt, we gotta have to build our own theater, man, where that'll seat like 9, and it's actually the back rows are raised, and it's got floodlights, and you walk in. And we'll have like some flat screen, like some HD TVs, and we'll project, and we'll show the movie posters of what we're gonna see that night. It's just a fantasy.
Well, see, that's the thing. If I was a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, that's kind of like, I don't give a shit about like flashy cars. I don't need a plane or a boat or anything like that. But I would like a home theater.
I'd like this.
Well, you would like that.
I don't want the boat though. Fuck the boat.
Yeah, I don't.
Dying at sea is not my.
That's what I mean. Fuck the ocean. Seriously,
I grew up right next. I shouldn't be alive. Right. I saw the whole series. Don't buy a boat.
I grew up right next to the ocean. I don't like it. And I'm definitely not going farther out into it than I need.
Water everywhere, and not a drop to drink.
And it's full of sharks.
Yes.
So fuck that. Yeah. All right, so go check out Thomm shooting. If you like action movies and you like listen to him shoot.
Yeah, I'm just beginning. I only got about 6 of them up there right now, but I'll put up a couple a day probably.
Yeah, he just goes out in the other room and does them with his tablet or whatever.
Yeah.
Another thing that we're gonna do, and I only just realized it's fucking September already. Fuck. Yeah. This, life is just passing you by. Soon you die. But you know what I mean. I don't want to bring anybody down. No, I'm just saying. I just realized that Halloween is only a little more than a month away. It's like almost 2 months away. And I was like, well, shit, we always like to do like a special Halloween episode. Now, last year we did listener submitted true ghost stories.
Yeah.
And that was super fun.
Yeah,
and that was super popular.
Show. Yeah, everybody liked it.
So I think, and this year, I think we're going to do a similar thing, but we're going to do maybe a variation.
Yeah.
So if you have a true ghost story, or it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be a ghost story. It could be a horror story. It could be a fictional story that you wrote. It could be like some scary shit that happened to you. It doesn't have to be supernatural. Anything that's scary.
Yeah.
Fictional or non-fictional. And if you would like us to read it on the show, please submit them and we will pick the best ones and read them on the show. And I'll probably read some of my horror stories as well.
Yeah, you ought to do that. You ought to pick one of your horror short stories, something maybe out of Hopeful Monsters, and read that.
Yeah, I probably will.
Maybe the zombie with a zombie cannibal one. Remember that one? That was kind of a neat one. I don't know how long that would take to read.
Not that long. It's not that long of a story. But yeah, so if anybody wants to, you can like hit me up on Facebook or on the blog or whatever. There's lots of ways to, you know, and I'll put like a link to my email account and shit like that if you'd rather email it. But like I said, doesn't have to be true, doesn't have to be a ghost story. It can be like just scary shit that happened to you, or a horror story that you wrote. That would
Maybe
be cool
we'll
too.
like go out into the living room. We'll get down on the floor. And we'll have some like mood lighting and candles and shit. We'll put the camera back and do a long shot on us.
And
we'll sit there and drink, and you tell stories. Maybe we'll have some guests over that night or something.
And maybe I can wear a costume. I never get to wear a costume for Halloween anymore because we hardly ever go out. Maybe I'll redo my Bride of Frankenstein costume because that's pretty easy to do. And I could just tease my own hair. Mm-hmm. That's what I did before. I was Bride of Frankenstein a few years ago, and I teased all my own hair, and it looked super awesome. But then, you know, a few days later, I was like, why? Why did I do that? I can't get it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, okay, that's all the shout-outs that we have for now. Now, I just have a very brief news story, and this actually kind of horrified me, because this is some Cleveland torso murderer shit right here. On August 13th, in Bartow County, Georgia, in a landfill, they discovered the dismembered body of a woman. She had been all cut up and put in different bags and thrown into one dumpster. Yeah. And like someone at the landfill found her. Yeah. Now, for a long time, she was not identified. They actually did a really nice painting of her, like what she looked like, and she had very distinctive tattoos. It was like Easter lilies and like kind of a Sacred Heart type of thing, and it was right here.
When was this again?
On her chest. They found the body August 13th.
Okay.
So, and then they released that to the media as she was a Jane Doe.
They'll figure it out.
No, well, I first looked up the story on September 4th, and at that point they said, we did identify her, but they didn't tell anybody who she was for whatever reason. But today, I looked up the story again, and they said, okay, as of September 6th, which was a couple of days ago, they said she has been identified as 20-year-old Courtney Nicole Dubois, and she vanished from Fairmont, West Virginia. So there's like a picture of her now, and they're like, initially when they released photos of her tattoo to the public, someone recognized it and called.
How old was she?
20. And then they confirmed her identity through dental records. Now the creepy thing is they said they can't establish a cause of death.
Strangulation.
But it may be, because that's usually when they say they can't tell how she, because obviously if she was shot or stabbed.
The body had been out there for a while, so they can't see the broken blood vessels inside the eyeballs.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm not really sure, it didn't say how long she had been missing from her home, and like I said, they have a picture of her now, and you can see the tattoo, and I was like, that really creeped me out, because today I saw the picture of her, of the girl, and the painting does actually kind of look like her. So
she ran off with somebody, and that guy ended up killing her. It happened in an apartment because that's why she was cut up, because there wasn't enough privacy to carry the body out and take her down to the car. So that's only going to happen when you have somebody who doesn't own a house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because had he killed her in his own house, he just would have waited till nighttime, carried the body outside, put it in the trunk, whole. Maybe it was weak, too. Maybe he couldn't lift her. But I don't really see that. I think he was in an apartment, cut her into pieces, and took her out a little bit at a time.
Yikes.
Well,
so they found her all in the same...
That's why they do it.
She was all in the same dumpster, but she was in several different bags.
Yeah, he took her out to the car a little bit at a time, and then drove the car to the dumpster and threw it into the dumpster. He knew her.
Be careful out there, girls. Seriously.
Or he knew the guy who knew her. Maybe he exchanged her. There's gonna be a change.
Either that, or there's another Cleveland torso murderer motherfucker running around out there. Yikes.
No, if she
just like
she left her home willingly. I guarantee you.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think she left her home willingly, and then somebody later on ended up killing her.
You know what creeps me out? Going back to Faceless Villain and all the cases that I was writing about, because it's, this one's from 1960 to 1979. It's like, how many of the cases were, girl just went down the street to the store to buy some cigarettes or some soda and disappeared.
Yeah.
And then they found her in a dumpster somewhere later on.
Well, that's somebody jumping out of the car and
Right.
knocking them out and throwing them in.
Like I said, but a lot of them happen like that.
Yeah.
So it's not always someone you know. Yeah, most of the time it is. But in a lot of these cases, particularly a lot of the unsolved cases, it's just some random ass motherfucker that's like, hey, I'm just going to kill that girl that's walking to the fucking store.
Statistically, it's somebody they know.
Yeah,
Most
I know.
of the time, somebody they know.
I know.
Yeah.
But like I said, if it's somebody they know, then it's easier to solve it because you know them.
Right.
You know, the fact that so many of the unsolved ones are, you know, that's why, because they don't have, there's no relationship.
This one here, the chances are they'll solve it.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hope they do. And like I said, it's before I just saw the painting that they had done of her, and they had like a picture. They didn't show her dead, but like a picture of her dead body, because that would be horrible. But they just had like a picture of like where the tattoo was. And then when I saw the picture of the actual girl, like alive, now that they've identified her, and you could see the tattoo in the thing, and I was like, oh, it creeped me. Like, it made all the hair stand up on my arms. It creeped me out. Because I'm like, oh, they took a picture of that, and she was in a fucking dumpster. Yikes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty horrible. So yeah, I really, really hope that that they solve that. And actually, I usually forget to do this because I'm an asshole. But actually, if anybody had any information about it, then you should call the Bartow County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
You know, so you can look it up online, or the number is 770-382-5050. So if you know anything about Courtney Nicole Dubois from West Virginia and how she could have ended up like that, then it would probably be good if you would call.
It's a recent case, and the investigation's ongoing, so chances are they'll solve this.
Yeah, I hope they do.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll do it for our opening segment. And then when we get back from the break, we are going to talk about the American Dyatlov Pass incident, also known as the Boys from Yuba City or the Yuba County 5. It doesn't really have like a cool, flashy, snappy name or anything like that for whatever reason. Like I said, because it's one that doesn't get a lot of traction, even though, like I said, it's way weirder than the actual Dyatlov Pass. But yeah, it is kind of weirder. So we will talk about that when we get back from the break, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
Significant, because we are willing to put pen to paper and conclude at the end of the day that this house is very much haunted and will continue to be haunted for a very long time.
Everybody, Jenny's got some new shirt designs up, 4 of them, really good ones too. Atlanta Ripper, Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm, the H.H. Holmes Murder Castle, and of course Demon Child, because man said he could. These are updated designs. I think they look really cool. Jenny did a great job on them. Were they fun making, Jenny?
They were very fun, and thank you very much. I think they came out very good.
Yeah, they get really good. They're very high quality shirts. Jenny and I wear our own shirts at certain times when we're trying to put a spotlight on ourselves, and you can put a spotlight on yourselves. If you go ahead and pick up one of these shirts today, you guys are going to love them. Links in the description, www.zazzle.com at 13 o'clock.
Yeah, so go check out our store at www.zazzle.com/13 o'clock. We got these 4 cool new t-shirt designs, plus all our old ones if you'd rather get one of the old ones. But these ones are awesome, and you should check them out.
They're also available in women's cut, and they look really cute. Jenny's got some.
So thank you. Go check them out. So now we're talking about a very oft-requested topic, the American Dyatlov Pass incident, otherwise known as the Boys from Yuba City, or the Yuba County Five.
Yeah.
This is a case that happened in February of 1978 in Northern California.
Yeah, and I'm just hearing about it now, actually. I think it's just starting to come into the modern consciousness.
It seems like I said,
Yeah.
and I think I mentioned this before the break, but it's like, this to me seems way weirder than the actual Dyatlov Pass incident, which to me seems weird, but not that weird.
What's weird about Dyatlov Pass is the bodies, the condition of the bodies.
Yeah.
This one, the conditions of the bodies isn't weird. What it is just the situation.
This one is just the situation is very odd. Like, I'm not really sure, like, what sequence of events occurred to make things come out the way they came out.
Something bad happened to these guys.
Yeah, it did.
Could have just been a serious case of the dumbass. I think that's what it was, really.
Sure, it could happen. It should be said, I mean, this is Northern California. It was cold and stuff like that. It wasn't nearly as cold as it was in the Dyatlov Pass incident. Right. You know, that's kind of like, that's some Russian winter shit over there.
Yeah.
This was February, Northern California, kind of up in the Sierra Nevadas, but not that high elevation. I think the highest elevation was like 4th, as they were like right at the snow line. So let's talk about, so this was 5 guys, and like I said, even though it's called the Boys from Yuba City, their families called them the Boys, even though they're grown men. Their ages ranged from 24 to 32, 24 being the youngest, 32 being the oldest one. They were actually 5 friends from California. Their names were Gary Mathias, Jack Madruga, Jackie Hewitt, Ted Weir, and William or Bill Sterling.
Now, this was 78, you said.
1978, yep.
And it is in the state of California that this actually takes place?
Yes.
Okay. And Sierra Nevadas?
Yes.
So I was a little kid hanging out at this time in that place.
Yeah.
Because this is where my Aunt Love was from, you know, Mountain Poultry.
Yeah.
She used to take me, Wesley, even before she met Red, some of my aunts, we would go to Sierra Nevada mountains up in, you know, Sequoia National Park.
Yeah.
You know, Redwood Forest. This is not a real super hostile environment.
That's what I was
It's
thinking.
not.
It's really not. I
mean, basically in the 70s, what that place was about is young women, girls, would go up to Sequoia to meet guys. They'd hang out with park rangers. Park rangers would show up with some weed and guitars, and they'd sit around and pass a joint around and sing Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. That's what it was like back then.
That reminded me of that fucking... Do you remember that video we made years ago when you were making eclairs? And you were talking to Lois on the phone, speakerphone? And I made a video because it was so funny.
John Denver. This was the era of John Denver. John Denver, weed, and park rangers and Sequoia National Forest. You know,
I feel like guitars and weed, that pretty much covers the whole late 60s to early 70s.
Yeah, which people would probably call bullshit on that now. Oh, there's no way the park rangers had weed. Oh no, back in the 70s, if you wanted weed, you got it from the fucking rangers.
They had weed.
They had all the weed.
They probably have weed now.
They had the weed and they had all the girls.
Everyone's got
They were cute guys with guns and hats, Smokey the Bear hats, and weed in their pocket and guitars. They'd show up around your campfire. That's how I remember. Show up around your campfire, start playing literally Rocky Mountain High and John Denver songs, and passing joints around your aunt, trying to nail your aunt. That's what they would do.
They're like Robin
Hood. But my aunts
they just
at that
go
time in their
around
late
to all the
teens,
different
you know.
campsites, and they're just like, hey, I'll sing you a song and give you some free weed. And then
in those days, my aunts were like 17, 18, you know, some of them, but, you know, that's the way they were.
All right.
Yeah.
So, these 5 guys are super close friends. They actually met at sort of a, it's one of those, like, what do you call it? Like a day program, kind of like a vocational day program for adults with mental disabilities of various types. Yeah. So that's how they met. Now, a couple of them, like I said, you read the articles on this from the 70s, and it's like, you know, 78, and they were actually able to say, hey, the kids were retarded. They weren't, not really. It's like they had some mild developmental disability issues. You know, a couple of them were kind of quote-unquote slow. Gary Mathias actually was not slow. He had schizophrenia. He had actually served in the army. He'd been in Germany. And evidently he'd started having problems there and had started having problems with drugs and having like a couple of violent outbursts And they gave him an honorable discharge. He went to a psychiatrist who prescribed him a couple of medications, stelazine and cogentin. And he had been on these for at least 2 years, and his schizophrenia was well under control. So by most accounts, he hadn't had any kind of outbursts or anything like that. So he was a fairly normal individual. But like I said, a lot has been made about the cognitive disabilities of these 5 men. I'm not sure how egregious they were. Many of them, one of the other ones, Gary was in the Army. I believe Jack had also been in the Army. He had served in Vietnam. Most of the other ones had jobs and things like that. So it wasn't like a thing where they needed constant care. They could live independently. So these 5 guys were also on a basketball team together. Now, the Saturday after they disappeared was a big deal for them, because their team, the Gators, was going to play at this tournament, for Special Olympics type stuff. And if they won, then they would get a week-long trip to Los Angeles. So they were super excited about it. And it's they had all told all their families, make sure to wake us up. We don't want to oversleep. It's they washed all the uniforms and they washed their shoes and everything like that. And they had everything laid out. So they were super excited about the game that they were supposed to play on Saturday. Well, on Friday night, all 5 of them were actually going to go to a basketball game. And it was at the, I think it was California State University. It was in Chico. And it was about 40 or 50 miles from where they lived. They were cheering for the away team. So they all get into Jack Madruga's car, which is a 1969 Mercury Montego, turquoise and white. It was his prized possession. It was his baby. He loved this car. No one else was allowed to drive it, nothing like that. So he picks all of them up, and they all go to this game. Now, apparently, there were several witnesses that said they were all at the game, and everything was fine. They left the game, and then the next sighting of them was about 3 blocks away at a place called Bears Market, and they came in at around 10 o'clock. The cashier remembered them because she was mad, because she's I was trying to close up, and then these 5 guys came in and were dicking around trying to pick out snacks and shit like that. Good. But finally, they bought, and they even know what they bought. They bought a couple of fruit pies, they bought a Snickers bar, they bought a Marathon bar, they bought a couple bottles of Pepsi and some bottles of milk. Snack shit. Right. Now, they had not told any of their family, and you have to imagine, all of their families said this about them. Everybody that knew them said this about them. They had developmental difficulties. They were all part of a day program and things like that. They were kind of homebodies. They liked schedules. They liked, they're kind of rigid. We do this at this time. And they were very, they adhered to the rules and things like that. So it's not kind of a case
institutionalized.
So it's not kind of a case where we just decided, normal people might be out for a night. It was let's go do this and take off. They
weren't spontaneous.
Right. They weren't spontaneous type of people. They were we're just going to go to this game that's 50 miles away. Then we're going to stop and get some snacks, and then we're going to go back home. Except that's not what happened. Now, here's what I think is very, very weird about this. So, the last sighting of them, as I said, was at this convenience store, and they were just buying snacks. None of them came home. So, when they're not home by midnight on Friday night, their families are starting to freak out, because this is not like them. I mean, they don't go out and just party. And they had a big game the next day, and they were super excited about it, and they were we can't oversleep, this is going to be a big deal. We're going to go to Los Angeles and all this other stuff. So the parents pretty much, they called each other's parents and did Gary come back home? No, Gary's not home. And it's did Jack come back home? No, none of them did. So then finally they call the police. Now, the police immediately start looking out for them along the trail and everything like that. They don't find any trace of them until a few days later. Some sources say, like I said, they disappeared on the Friday night after the game in Chico. Some sources say Monday, some sources say Tuesday. But they said one of the cops or somebody saw a bit of turquoise poking out from a snowdrift. There had been a blizzard in the intervening few days. So they dig it out, and they find Jack's Mercury Montego. And it's about 70 miles away from where they were going. Like in the opposite direction. It's up right at the snow line, like on this like weird twisting mountain road that I'm not super familiar with the geography of the area, but everything
I know what it looks like.
Everything that I've seen, like from people that are familiar with the geography, so this is not like a kind of road that you would, make a wrong turn on and then just keep going on it. It's not like an easy road to get onto if you're not going that way. Things like that.
I'm going to stop right here, okay?
Okay.
Under normal circumstances, I would agree with these people.
Yeah.
Okay. In bad weather conditions, at night, certain people possibly could become disoriented and get turned around. It's happened to me before, just in the Army. All you have to do is be tired, and you know what I mean? And kind of blank out and forget what you're doing for a second, especially in bad weather conditions, like you're being rained on. And you'll lose track of time and direction. You'll become very disoriented.
Yeah, it's possible, sure.
So it's very possible, I would think, because that's not a heavily populated place with a bunch of landmarks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it is possible to make a wrong turn and to get turned around backwards there. But go ahead.
So there were a lot of weird things that police discovered about this car. They're like, the car was unlocked, but there were no keys in it. One of the windows was partially down. There wasn't like any sign of anything bad happening. There was like no signs of violence or anything like that. They found all the wrappers from all the snacks that they had bought, like all the empty bottles and everything. Everything had been eaten or drunk except for the marathon bar. There was like half of a marathon bar left in the wrapper still, but all the other wrappers were empty. Now, they said the interesting thing, the car had a quarter tank of gas in it. It looked like it had been just deliberately parked. There, it wasn't wrecked. It wasn't like hit a tree. It didn't hit a snowbank or anything like that. Now, they said that the tires looked like it had been stuck a little bit, but not stuck to the extent that 5 guys couldn't have pushed it out. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't stuck.
Now they're making this evaluation. How long after the
about
car?
3 days later.
About 3 days later.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a possibility that the depth of snow at that time could have been higher than what they're seeing.
Well, they knew how much snow had fallen in the intervening time.
Yeah, they always say that.
Well, generally, I'm just saying. They knew it was about 10 inches of snow.
Okay. From personal experience, depending upon topography, okay, and where the mountains are and airflow, sometimes snow can pile up in certain areas much deeper than in other areas. I just want to mention that. Just because 10 inches fell, all right, and they knew that 10 inches fell in most places, in some places, 2 feet could have fallen.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to say that. Because people tend to take these kind of reports and just read them totally literally. You know what I mean? Conditions on the ground vary a lot. I've been in these situations.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm just saying what the cop said.
Right.
This is what the cop said.
I know this case, and I'm trying to figure this case out. I just don't, you know what I mean? I want you to give him the straight dope. I'm going to say that, look, there were probably variations in this case that caused a perfect storm to happen.
Well, obviously.
And one thing led to another, and you'll find out why.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I've been drinking, so, now I'm going to take this away. Okay, I'm not going to listen.
All right, so another thing. So the first thing they thought, they're like, okay, well, the car was sort of stuck, but not stuck enough that 5, full-grown men couldn't have pushed it. Yeah. They're like, well, maybe something happened to the engine. So it's like the keys were not in the car. They never found the keys. But the police were able to hotwire the car, and the engine started right up. So obviously there was nothing wrong with the car. Now, the other weird thing is that they're like, okay, now you have to understand this road. It's a very twisty road. They're like, I don't even think parts of it were paved at the time. They said it's full of potholes.
Right.
It's very twisted. And they said, now, the Mercury Montego was a very heavy car. Its muffler was very close to the ground.
I had one.
Now, yeah. Now,
you didn't know that?
No.
I owned a Mercury Montego, 73.
This was in 1969.
There probably wasn't a big difference. But actually, mine was a 72. Piece of shit car, 4-door. Okay, go ahead.
But something that the police found odd was that The undercarriage of the car and the muffler, there were no dents, there were no scratches. It was pretty much immaculate. They said, which led them to believe that whoever had driven up this road was familiar with the road or was a very good driver. Now, they said that was very weird because the guy that was driving the car, Jack, they presume, because it was his car and he was the only one that drove it, had never been on this road before. So they thought that was very strange that, you know, the undercarriage of the car wasn't all fucked up, which you'd think it would be if you'd just gotten lost in the dark and didn't know your way. So they thought that was very weird. Now, so once they found the car, they started kind of like fanning out and looking for the body. I mean, they were presuming that, you know, they were dead because there'd been a blizzard in the meantime. And it's like, you know, there's no way if they didn't, because you have to think too, these men, they were not planning on going up into the mountains for Christ's sake. It's like a couple of them only had tennis shoes on. They just had like a really light jacket. They didn't have coats or anything like that. They weren't planning on
survival.
Right. They were just planning to go to the game and come back. Yeah. So they didn't have, you know, warm weather clothes or anything.
Yeah, they weren't thinking ahead. But then again...
But they weren't, like I said, they weren't planning on going up there.
Yeah, and Sierra Nevada is not that hostile most of the time.
That's what I'm saying.
They weren't really thinking. It's not like they were in Siberia.
Yeah.
Right,
and, you know, like I said, I don't know. That's the mysterious thing for me is, like, how the fuck did they even end up there? Because why would you go up there? But anyway.
Well, I don't know exactly how it happened, just based on the on the evidence left behind. We know that they drove there. We know that they abandoned that car. I'm going to say that because of weather conditions, they got lost somehow. And for some reason or another, they thought that it was wise to abandon the vehicle. I think what happened, maybe they hit a temporary snowdrift, you know. And they weren't really sure where they were. They got turned around backwards. They thought there'd be houses in the area. And they just got out of the car and said, well, we're going to go find a house. That's what I think happened. But go ahead.
Maybe, like I said. Yeah. But, you know, one thing that I think is strange, like I said, was the lack of damage to the underside of the car. Which you would expect if you were driving over a potholy road in the snow, in the dark, and you didn't know your way around. You would think that you'd be hitting shit all the time.
Remember that time we were on the freeway and we were going to the club and we got hit in that big, huge rainstorm?
Yeah.
And visibility went down to about 6. I was totally disoriented.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they got into a situation like that.
I've had that happen in the fog, like in the morning, like on the way to work. Like I knew where I was, but I kept missing turns because I was like, wait, where is it?
I think something like that happened with the snow. All they could see was a bunch of snow falling in the headlights, and maybe their visibility was only about 3 feet. And they weren't sure when it was going to stop. They weren't sure exactly where they were, and for some reason they stopped the car and got out because they couldn't see.
But yeah,
that's what I think happened.
So anyway, it gets weirder.
Yeah, it gets weirder, folks. It gets weirder.
So after they found the car, you know, like I said, they put out APB. They're looking for the bodies, you know, missing persons. Now, at this point, more blizzards blow in, the weather gets shitty, and, you know, the search teams are starting to... They almost lost some people, too, and they said, okay, well, we have to call off the search for now, at least until the weather clears up. Now, as soon as the missing persons reports came out into the media, this guy named Joseph Shones calls the police, and he says, you know, on the night those kids disappeared, I call them kids, on the night those men disappeared, he's like, I was driving up that very same road. He had a cabin up there, and he said, I was going, you know, me and my family were going to go up there for a ski trip on the following weekend, so I was going up there to check the snowpack. So he was driving up there in his Volkswagen Beetle.
Damn.
And he got stuck.
Yeah.
Now, he got out of the car and was trying to push the car out of the snowpack and had a mild heart attack.
Yeah.
So at this point, he's like, okay, well, I have to get back in my car. So he gets back in his car. He runs the heat, leaves the engine running. He runs the heat and lays down his back seat until he feels better or until help comes or whatever. So
running the heat in a Volkswagen Beetle doesn't mean shit. Boy,
well, it's better than laying out in the fucking snow.
I know that. I'm saying that's almost damn near that, because I'll tell you what, that car...
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That was a shitty car for that situation. You know, you didn't even have positive traction. In the 1970s, you wouldn't have had good tire compounds. That car would have been stuck immediately. And I'll tell you what, and I've owned Volkswagen Bugs when I lived in Brazil when I was a kid. Volkswagen Beetle didn't have a shit for a fucking heater. He's lucky to have survived that one.
Yeah, well, he did.
Yeah.
All right, so he had a heart attack and he was laying down in the back seat. Now, he told the police, he's like, now, I was in a lot of pain and it was like a bad situation.
Yeah.
He's like, but I'm pretty sure that I woke up and I heard like a weird whistling sound. And he got out of the car and looked and he saw either one vehicle or two vehicles. He saw like headlights about 20 feet behind his car. And he said, and I saw silhouettes of people. Said it looked like a bunch of people. One of them looked like a woman holding a baby.
Yeah.
And he evidently asked them for help. Was like, hey, can you help me? I had a heart attack or whatever. And at which point they turned off the headlights, like everything, and then they went silent, which he thought was very weird.
That's weird, yeah.
And then, like, he fell back to sleep. Like I said he wasn't sure if it was one vehicle or two. And he told the police, he's like, now, it wasn't necessarily a woman with a baby. It could have been a man with long hair that was holding something else. He's like, I just kind of saw the silhouette or the shape. So some people are speculating, and he said it could have been a pickup truck. And he said it might have been red. And that kind of will come into play a little bit later. But now some people said, well, that could have been the 5 boys, because one of them had kind of long hair, and it's like, you know, if he had longish hair and was holding something, you know, yeah, he could have thought it was a woman holding a baby. But then, like, their families were like, yeah, but if he had been asking the boys for help,
they would have helped.
They would have helped, because that's, like, the kind of people they were. They were, you know, like I said, they were very friendly. They were very, you know, compassionate. So if somebody had asked them for help, they would have helped.
Could it have been that the guy kind of hallucinated that? Because a heart attack actually is a near-death experience. And
it's possible, and some people have suggested that.
Yeah.
He's like, he was pretty sure that he saw that. Now, the shitty thing, I mean, well, not shitty, because he's all right. But what happened to him was he stayed in the car until about dawn, and then his Volkswagen ran out of gas.
Yeah.
At which point the heat went off. So he had to walk about 8 miles. He was familiar with the area. So he had to walk about 8 miles back down the road. And he found a house and they took him to a hospital. And actually, doctors have confirmed that he did have a mild heart attack. They had the EKG and everything like that. So he does have that backing him up. Now, the guy does say, his name is Joseph Shones, like I said. He does say that he's not entirely sure if he saw one vehicle or two. He also said, too, that later on in the night that he got woke up again by someone shining flashlights in the window of his car.
I got a feeling he was hallucinating from the effects of heart attacks and the effects of cold. Because
it's possible.
When I was really cold up in Korea, you'd have little kind of dream-like things, you know what I mean, when you were doing guard duty out in the environment. I think he was slightly hallucinating.
It's possible.
I don't think anybody... Especially in California back in the 70s, up there in the Sierra Nevada mountains, I can't see anybody in that area leaving an old man to die in a car. I know that culture.
See, now, like I said, if he did see what he said he saw, then there are some theories about what that might have been. But, you know, I'll get to that.
Because that area and that time, like I said, I know that. I grew up there, okay? Those people really stuck together pretty tightly. You know what I mean? People cared about each other back then, and especially up in the mountains. It was a good time and a good era. You know what I mean? It was very friendly.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I'm saying if he did actually see those 5 men that disappeared, then they would have helped him.
Yeah, they would have helped him. Yeah.
So I don't know if he saw them and they freaked out or they were scared, or if he saw different people.
It could have been
that had something to do with the 5 men disappearing.
It could have been that he saw them and he tried to ask them for help, but in reality he was too weak to do so, and they thought he was okay. Just a guy sleeping.
Yeah, like it's lots of.
You know what I mean? A lot of things could have happened.
So okay, so police considered that a credible sighting. Another one, like, they got a lot of tips after they reported the disappearance and stuff, and most of them they didn't take seriously, because they were, oh, we saw the guys in Florida, we saw them in Oklahoma. They're like, no, you didn't. Just knock it off. So Joseph Shones was legitimate. Now there was this other one that they said could or could have been legitimate. So the second tip that they thought was maybe legitimate, this woman called up and she said that it was either on Saturday or Sunday she had seen 2 guys in a store that looked like 2 of the guys that had disappeared. But she said they were in a red pickup truck. Now, that's really interesting because Joseph Shones said that he thought one of the vehicles he saw on the road that night was a red pickup truck. Now, she said that these two guys came in and they bought some food, and one of them was on the phone. So, I'm not sure how legitimate this sighting is. It seemed very strange. She said there were a couple other guys that stayed in the truck while two of them came in. Some of the family members thought that maybe this wasn't legit because the guy that was supposedly on the phone was, I believe it might have been Jack, but they said, yeah, he hated to talk on the phone. He wouldn't be on the phone. So, because I feel that, bro. I'm just saying. Yeah, I hate talking on the phone, too. So, yeah, if I can ever avoid it. But, yeah, so they're not sure how legitimate that sighting is. They just thought it was interesting because she mentioned a red pickup truck, and Joseph Shones had also mentioned a pickup truck. I don't know if he could see the color because it was dark, but he did mention that one of the vehicles could have been a pickup truck. So that was pretty much all that happened until June of 1978. In June, there was a couple of people riding motorcycles, and they were going through this one area, and they saw, it was like a trailer that the forestry service guys would stay in sometimes. It wasn't always occupied, but it always had supplies there for like people whenever they needed to stay there and whatnot. Yeah,
it was kind of like an auxiliary kind of a station.
Right, like a camp.
Like a camp, yeah.
So it was all stocked with food and propane and shit like that.
I saw photographs of it. It's funny because like the trailer looked like a little German house.
Yeah.
Like a little German snow house. But it was, it's funny, it was like had wheels on it and everything. And it was fully decked out. Fully decked out. I mean, it could have kept you alive for a long time.
So they noticed that one of the windows of the trailer was broken, and they smelled something really bad.
Something bad.
So they looked in the window. I don't know if they looked in the window, if they actually broke in there.
They went in.
And found the body. Yeah, I think they went in there.
Yeah.
And they found a dead body.
Yeah.
Laying in the bed.
Yeah, and somebody had like tucked it in.
Yeah, he had like a whole bunch of blankets on him. It was like 8 blankets, I think, like tucked up around his face and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He had like kind of light clothing, and the light clothing that he'd been wearing. He didn't have a jacket or anything like that, but he didn't have any shoes on. This was actually turned out to be the body of Ted Weir. The creepy thing about this is, like I said, this is also very weird. He was the only one that was found in this trailer. Ted Weir, when he disappeared, had weighed about 200 pounds. When they found him, they determined that he had lost between 80 and 100 pounds.
Yeah, he had starved.
He had starved and succumbed to hypothermia.
Right.
He had also grown enough of a beard that they thought he might have been alive for anything from 8 to 13 weeks.
Yeah, so about 2.5 months, evidently.
In this trailer.
Right.
Laying in this bed.
Right.
Now, the weird thing about this trailer, no one had ever started a fire, even though there was a big box of matches right there. There were paperback books. There was wooden furniture.
Propane.
There was a propane tank.
Yeah, for a heater and everything.
For a heater. All you had to do was go turn the little valve.
And a shit ton of food, about
and there was
2 years worth.
Now, here's the thing. In the cabin, they found some of the like army rations, like the cans.
Yeah.
And those had evidently been opened with a P38, like an army can opener. And those had been eaten. But the weird thing is that those had come from a shed that was outside the trailer. Inside that same shed, there was like a locker. Now, most sources say it was unlocked. Some said it was locked, but it was like an easily broken. It was like a cheap lock. You could have just busted it open. Inside that locker was a shit ton of like dried meals, like prepared, what do they call them? Like
they were dehydrated,
like Mexican food, Mexican cocktail,
food, right?
That type of stuff.
There
was enough in there for several people to live for a year. There was a shit ton of food in there. Yeah, and none of it had been touched.
It was the kind that was in kind of like the bags.
Yeah,
the plastic bags. You cut the top off, put hot water.
in, and then you eat it. Yeah,
right.
So
ranger food.
Yeah.
Forest ranger stuff.
Like I said, this trailer was there. It wasn't always occupied, but it was there for forestry workers whenever they had to be in that area. There was always food there. There was always propane there for heat. There was always matches. There was always supplies in this place.
Yeah, and there was
but hardly any of them had been used.
And there was enough supplies in there to actually bring all 5 of those guys through the entire winter. Some say 2 winters.
Yeah.
But for some reason it was unused.
Odd. Yeah.
And, 2.5 months of fucking beard growth on the dead guy.
Yeah.
With all that weight loss.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
With all that food right there.
Right.
Now, another thing, too, is that Ted Weir, he was found without shoes.
Yeah.
Now, they found another pair of shoes in the cabin that were smaller than his feet. These belonged to Gary Mathias. So they knew that at least Gary Mathias and Ted Weir had come to this cabin. Yeah. Now, they assumed that Gary Mathias, maybe his feet had frostbite and had swollen.
Right.
So he had switched shoes with Ted Weir because Ted Weir had bigger feet. Which, seems like a pretty...
I saw Ted Weir's shoes, and they were boots, actually.
Yeah.
They may have been better than what
the other
guy had. The other guy may have had tennis shoes.
But like I said, there was a size difference as well. So that might have...
well, you can always put on boots that are bigger than yours.
Yeah,
than your size. So I think what he was doing, I didn't see the shoes that the other guy had. I think he had tennis shoes.
He did.
I think he was getting rid of his tennis shoes and grabbing somebody's boots.
Yeah, I think they were Nike, some kind of Nikes or something like that. It was just like regular ass looking tennis shoes.
Once he died, he says, I'm going to get those boots.
Yeah, so it might have been that. So that's pretty much the only... And also, now, a lot of people have made kind of a big deal about this, but Ted Weir, like on the table right next to, on his nightstand, next to the bed where he died, they found his ring. He had a ring that had like his name engraved on it, and he had like a little cross necklace. They also found a watch that they don't think belonged to any of the 5 men. Like, none of the families recognized it. I don't think this is quite as weird as some channels made it to think, because, like I said, this was a cabin that was occupied by forestry workers and by other people, like hikers and shit.
Left their
so
watch
somebody
there.
just left their watch there, probably. It's, like, not that big a deal. So it's like, ooh, it's a watch that doesn't belong to any of the people, whatever. It was somebody's that they just left it there. But, like I said, the weird thing was that why, at least 2 of the guys made it to this trailer.
Yeah.
Why? And honestly, Gary, he was one of the guys that had been in the army.
Right.
You'd think he would have known, hey, let's start a fire. There's matches. There's paper. There's all kind of shit. I mean, a kid would know to do that. Yeah. And it's like, and there's a propane tank right outside that all you had to do was turn the valve and then the heat would come on.
And later on, they found the other guys.
Yeah. So after they found that, then the searchers fan out around looking for the other people's bodies. So the day after they found Ted Weir in the trailer, they also found Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling. Now, these 2 were about 11.5 miles from the car. If I didn't mention it before, the trailer was 19.5 miles from the car. 19.5 miles they walked.
Yeah. That's not long, though.
Well, still, I mean, in fucking 4 to 6 feet of snow, it is.
Well, young guys...
with shitty shoes on.
Young guys with shitty shoes, they could make it, but...
Well, obviously they could make it because they did.
Right.
And they didn't have coats or anything.
No.
They just had... I think they just had, like, little sweaters or, like, little light windbreaker type things. They didn't have coats or anything.
They stayed warm just from all that physical exertion of climbing through that snow.
I guess.
But that can only last so long. It eventually catches up with you.
Yeah. So they found Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling. They were about 11.5 miles from the car. And they were, like, on both sides of a stream. They had mostly been eaten by animals, so they were kind of spread all around, which was kind of weird. Another kind of strange detail was that Bill Sterling, he was, like... I think it was Bill Sterling that had, like, his hand around his watch.
Yeah, it was grabbed.
Which I thought was kind of... A lot of people thought was kind of weird. Like, why did he die like that? So that was another kind of weird little detail. There was really only bones left. They'd been scattered all around.
Yeah.
2 days after that, and this actually I was watching a documentary. See, this I'm not a terrible hard-hearted asshole. Like I write about true crime all the time, and I'm a little bit jaded, I'll admit that. But when I was reading about this part kind of like made me tear up a little bit, because 2 days after they found Jack and Bill, some of the family members of the boys had gotten involved in the search, which I can understand why you would want to, but like. And this is why. Because Jackie Hewitt's dad found his backbone.
Yeah.
They knew it was his because of the clothes and the shoes,
yeah.
like, found next to it. And he just, like, found his fucking spine, like, laying there in the fucking...
Well, no, that's how it goes.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
So then, can you imagine that's, like, your kid? Ugh.
Well, that's what's left of your kid.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, you know how people are.
Well, bones, you know.
So then
evidently when he found the bones, he wasn't quite sure.
Although he did see the jeans and the shoes.
He's like, yeah, that's him.
And, and they knew that they must be around there somewhere.
Right. So the question is did this guy really sit up in that damn cabin with all those other guys for 2.5 months?
See, I'm kind of doubting
and die, not eating all that food,
Yeah.
The food's there, the gas is there. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's not how it happened. I think what happened is that they were in a storm, and they got lost in that car, and decided to abandon that car for one reason or another. And then they wandered around in that forest for about 2 months. Some of them dying along the way. 2 of them ended up finding that cabin.
Yeah, it's a trailer cabin type of thing, yeah.
They were only there for a couple of days, and one of them died in that trailer, the guy that they found. And then the other guy said, I'm not staying here with this dead body, and he left and then died later on. The question is the order in which they died.
I kind of feel like, you know what I think happened? Because, okay, I should say, too, they found 4 of the bodies. Gary Mathias has never been found. They've never found his body.
He's out there somewhere.
Now, yeah, sure, I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things they found, and they're not entirely sure that this has to do with the case, but it's probable that it probably does. They found 3 blankets and a flashlight lying by the side of the road. What I think happened is that at least 2 of them, maybe all of them, made it to the cabin. And at this point, maybe Ted was hurt or sick or something. I mean, I nothing that I've read about this case said that he was wounded. But, maybe his feet were frostbitten. Maybe he became ill. Maybe he couldn't get up or something like that.
That's a possibility. Maybe
he laid down. Yeah, maybe he got some kind of infection. And he laid down.
Yeah.
And then maybe the 3 guys were like, okay, well, we're going to go. Gary, you stay here.
Yeah, I'm starting to see it now.
You stay here and watch Ted. We're going to go get help.
And
then they left, and then they didn't come back. And then Gary said, okay, I'm going to take some blankets and a flashlight, and I'm going to go find them.
Right.
And then he never came back either. And then Ted couldn't get up for whatever reason.
That's it.
So
he was infected. He couldn't walk.
I kind of feel like that might have been what happened. Because otherwise, why would you... I mean, he couldn't... There was no way... He couldn't get up.
He couldn't get up.
Because if he would have been able to get up and eat or start a fire, he would have. And
what ended up happening is it took him 2.5 months to die from a mixture of starvation and infection from his frostbitten feet.
Yeah, and maybe he was just hoping.
And the other guys kept going for help and not making it. That's probably what happened.
God, which is like a horrible thing to think about. Then he just laid there for all that time, and he was like, maybe they'll be back today, and then they never came back because they were already dead.
And he was getting food, but he got too sick. He stopped getting the food. He died from the...
That's what I was... Because like I said, there's no way. There must have been something the matter with him. Like he must have been sick or hurt.
Well, his food... He probably got frostbite of the feet.
That's what I'm thinking.
And man, that shit hurts like crazy. You can't walk on it.
Right.
And then infection set in because maybe some of his toes fell off.
Because they did say that his feet were starting to get like gangrenous.
Yeah, that's what happened. And then the infection spread throughout his body, and he got sick and died.
And then he couldn't get up. Yeah,
that's what happened.
Because that would explain why. So they couldn't have been in the cabin for that long.
It just took him a long time to die from it. He was sick most of the time.
I kind of feel like they probably found the cabin. Maybe all of them found it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Have.
Or maybe 2 of them found it. And then they left like right away, which would explain why they didn't bother to start a fire, why they didn't bother to look for food. And maybe before his feet got too bad, maybe he found those rations and ate those, but then his feet got so bad that he couldn't get up anymore. And at that point, they had gone out looking for help and had died elsewhere and didn't come back, and he couldn't get up.
He would have been unconscious towards the end anyway, because the infection would have spread throughout his body. So he would have eventually gone into a coma.
Yeah.
He could have lived like that for, quite a while.
True.
but I think over a period of a few months, he kind of slowly died. That's probably
it's
what
just,
happened.
to me, this seems like a really sad... And
nobody came back because
Yeah.
they all went out to go get help and died.
Like, the thing that, to me,
Yeah.
that's mysterious about this, like, to me, like I said, that doesn't seem super mysterious, because, like I said, if he could have got up to get food, he would have.
Yeah.
So it must have been just him in the cabin.
Yeah.
The rest of them must have gone out looking for help, and then died of exposure, or died of other things,
Yeah.
and didn't come back to help him, and he couldn't get up out of
He
bed
was too
anymore.
weak. He was too weak to
But-
feed himself, and he
Right.
also was not really fully conscious and wasn't turning the heater on. And actually, when you're frostbitten, it actually feels better to remain cold, because when you heat up, you feel the pain from the frostbite. So it could have been that he left the heater off because his feet hurt too much when the heater was on. Because when you're cold, you can't feel it.
To me, it seems like once they got to the trailer, yeah, there's some mysterious stuff. But to me, that's less of a mystery as to, like, why they ended up there in the first place.
They got lost
To
in
me,
the dark.
that's, like, seems like the biggest mystery. Now, some people have said, because of particularly because the underside of the car wasn't fucked up as though someone drove it that knew the road, blah, blah, blah. Some people have speculated that they may have been carjacked or picked up a hitchhiker who subsequently carjacked them or made them go to a particular, hey, I live up here, and then they went up there and got lost. Which maybe would explain, one, the people that Joseph Schoen saw on the road, if he did really see them, and two, it would explain why they were way out of their way. Because like I said, they had planned... like I said, these were schedule-oriented dudes. It's like they're like, we're going to go to the game 50 miles away. We're going to come back. We should be home by 11:30 at the latest. And that's when their parents were expecting them home.
They got lost in the storm. I'm going to say no to all that.
I kind of feel like if, they wouldn't have gone off, because some people said, oh, well, one of them had friends in this other town, and maybe they decided, like, on a whim to go visit these friends, like, over there. But they talked to those friends, and the friends were like, we haven't seen him for, like, a year. Why would he suddenly decide, like, in the middle of the night? And like I said, they had a game the next day. They wanted to get up early so they could get ready for it and shit like that. Now, I was watching this other... so, like I said, could they have pitched... Some people said, oh, maybe they witnessed an altercation at the basketball game, and then people were chasing them. Chased them, and they got lost because they were in an area they didn't know anymore. Something that one girl said, I saw one girl talking about this on YouTube on a different show, and she said, Gary had schizophrenia. He was on medication, and it was very well controlled by all accounts. But if he had forgotten, she's like, maybe he had forgotten to take his medication or didn't take it because maybe it caused some side effects that he thought would affect his game the next day. Or maybe, he was having some kind of relapse of symptoms just because of the excitement of the game and, like, maybe the fear of being lost. And maybe he had some kind of relapse, and he started getting paranoid. So it's like it didn't even matter, like, that maybe people weren't after them. Maybe he thought people were after them. And he's like, we have to get away. Like, these people are coming after us and shit like that. Because, like I said, to me, that seems like the weirdest aspect of the case is how the fuck did they end up on this fucking mountain road that they'd never been on before, that was, like, in the totally opposite direction from where they were going. They had no idea of planning. And like I said, they had been back and forth before. So, that's just the weird thing. Don't give me that, like...
I'm doing that
Don't give
look.
me that smirk.
I'm doing that look.
Don't give me that smirk.
I think it was an uneventful night. It was dark. Storm hit them. They got kind of turned around backwards and disoriented and got lost. That's what I think happened. All this stuff about carjackings is too implausible, too unlikely. I'm going to say it's more likely that it was just a straight up disorientation.
Although, to be honest, I don't think them picking up a hitchhiker is all that implausible.
That could have happened, but...
Like, maybe they were on their way home and they picked... And they, like I said,
anything could have happened.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that's not that implausible. It's not like I'm saying, oh, Bigfoot got them or aliens got them. I'm just saying maybe they were driving home and they saw a hitchhiker and they, like I said, they were friendly and they wanted to help people. They were very compassionate. If they saw a hitchhiker out in the cold, they were like, oh, maybe we should take them home. And the guy was like, man, I live way the fuck up there. And they went way the fuck up there and they're like, where the fuck are we?
I'm going to say it was an uneventful night. They got turned around backwards and disoriented from the darkness and the storm and got lost. That's probably I think that's the most likely.
It's a pretty weird case, though, you gotta admit.
It's
like
cool
I said,
it's a cool case.
It's way weirder than
Although you
Dyatlov.
had a good idea. I think they pretty much all, at least most of them, made it to that cabin.
Because
old boy's feet were so frozen he couldn't go anywhere. They left him in there. They said, "We're going to go get help."
We're going to go get help. Yeah.
Maybe they didn't directly go get help. Maybe they were in there with him for a couple of days and go, "Man, nobody's coming. We got to get you help before you die." And they went out to go get help.
Yeah.
They didn't make it and died. He went up there and died slowly.
I don't think it was that long. Because like I said, there had been some of the rations were opened.
Yeah.
And, either Gary or Jack had probably opened it because they were the ones that had that can opener.
Yeah.
So, or knew how to use that can opener.
He lingered for a couple of weeks and slowly kind of lost a bunch of weight because he had...
Yeah.
He
not must have been there alone.
Yeah,
but
he was by himself.
Gary was with him for a while, I think, because he
Right.
did switch shoes with him.
Yeah.
And I do kind of feel like all the guys were probably there, but they weren't there very long, like you said. It was probably just overnight.
Right.
And then the next day, 3 of the guys were like, "Okay, Gary, you stay and watch him. We're going to go get help."
We're going to go help. And they never
and
came
then they
back.
didn't come back.
And then, the guy in bed... What was the guy in bed? His name was...
Ted.
Ted, I'm telling you what, Ted got so sick he couldn't go anywhere.
That's what I was thinking. It had to be that.
Yeah, after a couple weeks, he was unconscious. He had lost a lot of weight. All right? The last guy said, "All right, I'm going to go out and find out what happened to these guys. I'm going to get you help."
I'm going to take I'm taking the blankets.
Right.
I'm taking a flashlight.
A week or so later, Ted died.
Yeah.
And
they've never found him.
He probably spent that last 3 weeks semi-conscious. He couldn't feed himself. You know what I mean? That's probably what
That's what it had to be that. Because here's the thing. I think
Yeah.
sometimes some of the shows that I've seen about this have made kind of a big deal about, they were developmentally disabled, blah, blah, blah.
I don't think
but it's like they weren't that dumb. They weren't dumb enough to I can't feed myself or, I can't start a fire. They had jobs. They'd been in the army. They could drive cars.
No, right. Now,
they weren't stupid.
And this whole thing about, they didn't turn the heater on. If you had frostbite, you wouldn't turn that heater on.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you turn that heater on, that frostbite all of a sudden starts killing you. You want to remain frozen when you're frozen.
Well, it's the same thing that happens, anytime one of your extremities gets really cold and
you just want to keep it cold. It feels better to just keep it cold.
Yeah, because it hurts.
Right.
It's really horrible. It's almost like waking up when your hand falls asleep.
Yeah, exactly. So probably what happened is they did turn the heat on. And all of a sudden his feet started killing him.
So they turned it back off.
They turned it back off.
Yeah.
Right.
Now they didn't start a fire. They know that.
Yeah.
Even though there was matches there.
Right.
But like I said, I don't think it was a question of just them being, they were retarded. You know what I mean? Because some people said that, maybe they just had a dumbass moment, but I don't think they did. I think there had to be a reason. There was a reason that and
one thing led to another. Things kind of spiraled out of control. They did their best.
I don't think the guys were at the trailer that long.
They didn't make
other than Ted, and I don't think Ted could get out of bed to feed himself after a little while, and he was there alone, so he couldn't get up and feed himself or start a fire, and he just slowly starved.
The thing that makes this case look so mysterious is that you got a dead guy in bed who's got frostbite, but he's got nearly 2.5, maybe 3 months of beard growth that he didn't have before, in a cabin full of food and fuel. Why did he die? Well, I just explained it.
Well, he couldn't get out of bed.
He couldn't get out of bed and feed himself
And no
when the
one was
last
there.
guy left. They didn't turn the heat on because his frostbite would kill him when they turned the heat on. That's what happened.
Like I said, to me it's weirder how they ended up there, but maybe they did just get lost. Or
I think
they
just got lost.
Or like I said, I kind of feel
I've gotten lost
picked up
before,
in a hitchhiker.
and I can land nav you give me a map and a compass, and I can find my way out of anything. But there's certain times, like we were in that car, I was on a freeway, and I wasn't really sure where I was going.
When you can't see, you can't get any frame of reference.
You can't get a frame of reference.
It happens to well-trained airline pilots.
Yeah,
they can't see the horizon.
And sometimes even time gets away from you.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, has this been 10 minutes or 10 hours?
Yeah, it's
because you kind of have this weird
mist, man.
You kind of have this
weird wormhole.
Yeah, you kind of have this weird brain aneurysm or something. You're like, whoa. Have I been doing this for 10 minutes or 10 hours? You know,
because
you're not
there's
sure.
a part of your brain, I can't remember what it's called right now, but there's a part of your brain that orients you in time and space.
You're right.
And when you don't have a frame of reference for that part of your brain to work on, you start getting unmoored from reality. It's strikingly easy to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened to old boy when he was driving.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Even well-trained airline pilots, like I said, if the weather gets bad enough that they can no longer see the horizon, if they can't see their instruments or anything like that anymore, then they've known to like just end up way the fuck off course and stuff because they have no idea where they are anymore. You don't know. It really doesn't take that long to get disoriented. So, like I said, this to me, this seems so sad because honestly, everything I've read about these 5 guys, they seem like really nice guys, and it's like they were just going to a basketball game, man. Just going to a basketball game, and that's all. And then they just fucking ended up, God. And then one of them just ended up fucking starving to death, like over 2 months in a.
I don't think he starved to death. I think he died from infection.
That's fucking awful.
I think he mostly died from infection, but he lost a lot of weight.
That's horrible. It's like, I just can't even think. And like I said,
he was unconscious when he died. He'd probably been unconscious for a long time before he died.
God damn. Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, they found all of their bodies except for Gary Mathias.
He had some blood infection.
He's still, they still don't know where he is. I'm sure he is out there in the mountains somewhere. It's, it's a huge area to search. So maybe they'll find him someday. But
it happened in the winter. Probably what happened is things like fox got him.
That's what happened.
His body.
Well, that's what happened to a couple of the other ones, but they did find them. But they found them many months later.
People think that if you die in the winter that you'll be preserved. No, if you die in the winter, you're frozen on the surface, and you're a fresh food source for other things to come along and eat you. That's what happens to you.
It's a circle of life, I hate to say.
Right.
But yeah, that's what happens. Animals got to eat too. I don't, I'm not going to give them any shit for that.
You might be frozen, but they'll just gnaw on you. Big old popsicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't really think there's any more.
I'll be dead. I won't care.
I don't think there's anything more that we can actually contribute to this case. I think that's
probably not. But like I said,
go ahead and shut that shit down.
Yeah, he's getting all drunk and belligerent.
Man, I've been running with Kugelkon the past hour, man.
Don't lean too far back on that chair
I'm not
because
going nowhere.
Although how fun! Look, you got.
Shit! There goes my phone.
How funny would it be if he tried to be all cool and like leaned back in the chair? Look, you're fucking up my focus. If he tried to lean back in the chair and he just fell over.
It's Saturday night.
It is.
Saturday night.
I've drunk almost as much as you, but I'm still coherent, I think.
When I poured that thing, man, it was like that much. It was like that much Keela.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it. You're
that
a
was
man.
That's like 5 drinks. That's like 5 drinks. I'm gonna watch some action movies tonight.
You keep moving around and you're fucking my focus up, but it's like going all blurry. I like this camera, but it's autofocus. You can't really like manually control the focus. So every time he moves, it goes.
It's gonna be all right.
Oh well, I look better in soft focus anyway. It makes me look younger.
You always look good.
Aww.
That's all.
Listen to you. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. I've noticed, like, since we've been doing the shows on video, it's weird because, like, from week to week, I'm like, wow, I look super bloated in that one. And it's like, oh, I look good in that one. It's like, I don't understand why I can't just look the same all the time.
To me, you look the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I look uniformly shitty all the time. But yeah, okay, so... Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. But, yeah. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed our breakdown of this very weird case. And actually, thank you very much for recommending this, because I didn't know anything about this case.
Good case, yeah.
And it's super fucking weird, and I don't know why it's not more well known.
Not paranormal, though.
Well, no one said that.
Just a mystery.
Like I said, I don't...
Although, I'll tell you what, they got lost. Dudes froze. Complications happened. They died.
Well,
Ain't that a shithouse way of explaining it?
Well, duh. Yeah, it is. Look at you. He's getting that.
I gotta go, man.
He's getting that way.
I gotta go.
He's getting that way.
I gotta go. She's gonna let this shit run off, right?
Okay. Well, no, I'm just waiting for you to shut up so I can do the... Now that he's gone, I can actually do the outro of the show. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you very much for recommending this topic, because it was really fascinating, and I spent the last 2 days researching it, and I got really into it, I have to say. So remember, if you like the show, to like, share, subscribe on all your social media. Share with all your friends. It helps us out a lot. If you'd like to financially support the show, you can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast. Or if you would like to give a one-time donation, you can do that too. You can go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account. Also, remember to go and subscribe to 13 O'Clock Podcast on BitChute, on VO, on Daily Motion. We have some of our shows up there as well, like in a limited capacity, just in the interest of kind of spreading our footprint farther out, so you know how we're doing. And also remember to check out our latest movie review, which was the 1993 H.P. Lovecraft anthology film, Necronomicon. Also remember to check out my games at thegamecrafter.com. Look up Giallo Games. The game is called Crimson Drop on a Crimson Palette, and it's kind of like a Clue type murder mystery type game. So if you like that kind of thing, go check it out. And that will do it for episode 108. We will see you next time. Bye.